Hey guys, I'm super stoked and excited today because it's a special episode. We actually, Claire and Gia don't know this, but we rarely invite people to our show. But when we invite something, we want to make sure that it's somebody that can deliver 10x the value that we usually deliver. So today I'm super excited because we wanted to do something a little bit different. Claire and Gia are SaaS experts that run a membership and consultancy company called Forget the Funnel, which I took a lot of courses on Forget the Funnel and trained myself about the whole SaaS industry. But we wanted to do something different. So they also do a lot of website analysis specifically for SaaS. So, we thought we would do a crossover episode where, Claire and Gia picked a brand, an e-commerce brand, and Rishi and I picked a SaaS brand. And we would spend some time with analyzing and kind of talk about what they're doing right, what they could be potentially doing better. Gia and Claire, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. And it's an honor to have been invited on, given that, as you mentioned, you don't ask guests to join you very often. So thanks.
Agree. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe, Claire, do you want to get started with talk about what brand you guys picked, and then maybe share your screen and go through some of the ideas you come up with?
Yeah, absolutely. So in planning our crossover, where we landed was doing a review of 5 Hour Energy's homepage. So 5 Hour Energy is, Gia, have you ever had a 5 Hour Energy?
I know what it is. I don't think I've ever had one though. Yeah.
Okay, same. And that was what I found really interesting about it is being based in the States. Every gas station you go into or every grocery store you go into, there's 5 Hour Energies at the checkout. So I've seen them a million times. I've never had one. I am a coffee drinker. This is my melted iced coffee. And so having brand awareness, but no understanding of what the product experience is like, made this one interesting. So I will share screen on that in a minute. And what you're going to see on my screen are the 5hourenergy.com homepage and my very messy notes that we put together in prep. They are, consider them real life. They're what actually doing my research before analyzing a page looks like. So they look a little chicken scratchy, but that's okay. So let me get my screen share going. Give me one moment.
And one thing I want to mention is that we haven't shared our ideas, so we don't know each other's ideas. So this is important, right?
Okay.
I see you.
So wonderful. I had this really great little effect going earlier where these were like perfectly side by side, but don't know how I did that. In any case, so here's the current setup of the 5 Hour Energy homepage. I opened the page, but I didn't want to spend too much time on it. Rishi, I think you mentioned this in a recent episode that when we study a page in depth, we start to forget our original observations as a brand new visitor. And so I had this open, but what I first did was actually go to the Amazon listing of 5 Hour Energy, and I pulled reviews from actual customers who use the product, have positive and negative things to say. So these are just internal resources. There's my Amazon reviews link. And then here's where I kept some positive voice of customer as well as negative voice of customer. So before we get to the page itself, just a couple of notes that could be interesting to get us in the right headspace. So the first review that came up, and I sorted these by most recent, so that we're looking at customers who just bought the product. We had the first person give a very detailed review, and so my yellow highlights are hopefully helpful in getting the gist. But we've got the review itself in paragraph form, and then just really casual, informally, the kind of themes that I saw come about in this review. So this is a person who is substituting coffee and Red Bull. It's small, but packs a punch. I thought that was interesting that they talked about the size. They also talked about their own body size. So like, how might this affect someone of a different stature, different weight, different gender? And then they start to talk about the use case, which I found interesting. They drink only half in the morning. And this is a tiny, tiny bottle. So I thought that was really interesting that they only need half and that they described the whole bottle as being a bit much. No crashing, keeping me focused on the task at hand. So that idea of like, pick me up in the morning and keep me focused, I noted were some interesting reasons that this person hired this product. Also, they talked about the calorie intake. So maybe they're substituting coffee and Red Bull because they're trying to cut back on sugar. Not super clear, but interesting that they compared those things. And then they also talk about like needing last minute pick-me-ups. So maybe they're at their desk or they have shift work and they're starting to drag. And I almost have this image of this person keeping their bottle in their pocket or their bag or whatever, and resorting to it midday if needed. So I thought that was interesting. Another person mentioned that it works faster than coffee. So they're focused on the length of time to feeling the effects. Another person mentioned no crash. So we're seeing multiple people say, I need something that gives me energy without crashing later. Again, has me wondering whether this is a common substitute when someone is used to really sugary drinks like Red Bulls or Monster Energies. Gives me energy to make it all day. So this person's talking about the length of the impact. This review was incredible. The voice of customer in here, this saved me from being fired. Was really fascinating. And this person went deep into their usage of it. So they drink half in the morning while they're in bed. They have a glass of apple juice first because they do not like acids, acidic drinks. 5-hour kicks in and I feel awake and positive. I thought this was interesting. I feel like my real self after drinking them. Kind of reminded me of, I'm not sure if you all know that Snickers campaign, you're not yourself when you're hungry or something like that. So I thought that was really interesting. And then another person saying, I drink half the bottle and then I drink the other half toward the end of the day, also good for hangovers. So we have more people talking about how this teeny tiny bottle is really, really impactful. Another person talking about the physical effects. They don't like coffee or energy drinks because they make them jittery. Slowly sip one in the morning, natural feeling boost. Again, kind of coincides with this, like, I feel like my real self concept. This person, the title of the review was, I need to drive awake. So their specific use case is when I'm driving, not sure if driving is part of their job or just maybe they're on a road trip. Another person whose spouse uses it also to get through their work. So we've got some clear themes here that this is a like utility product, right? This isn't like it's not an unwind product. It's not a cocktail. It's like, I need to be awake for work. I need to be awake to be on the road. I can't get fired. And then we had a couple of negative reviews, not very many. One person whose stomach was affected, and one person who probably shouldn't drink this because they appear to have some heart issues. So there is a bit of concern that probably needs to be addressed in terms of like, is this right for you? Do you have health conditions? Maybe be careful if you are high anxiety or you do have like a naturally racing heart, things like that. So those are my initial, those are the reviews that I read through to just kind of get myself in the headspace of someone who really is considering or has purchased this product. So then getting into the homepage itself, what I find fascinating is there is no match with those use cases on the homepage. And granted, that could be, and Gia, I welcome your thoughts on this, but it could be because 5-Hour Energy already has a lot of brand awareness, at least in the US market. I can't speak to everywhere else, but maybe they're making an assumption that like, if someone is coming here, yes, they already know that it is a good drink ahead of work, or it's a good drink to stay awake on a drive. I can't say for sure. I'm not the CMO of 5-Hour Energy, but I did find it really interesting that this page is entirely about one specific flavor. And the use case here is relaxation. No one talked about relaxation. So that struck me as something that I would want to experiment with. Now, if they're trying to promote this particular flavor, because we do know that people are switching away from other sugary caffeine drinks, I think there's an opportunity here to maybe do a kind of a collage of different actual use cases, someone going to work, someone in the car, with this kind of, tropical tinge over the top. Maybe that would be a more customer focused way to say, hey, we have this great flavor that will fit into your day. But this really surprised me. The zero sugar makes sense, but again, we're only talking about the flavor here. We're not really talking about the overall like set of flavors or the different series. The caffeine, these stand out as a little bit weak to me. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here to better emphasize the value of 5 Hour Energy as opposed to a sugary drink from Starbucks or a Red Bull. Again, we have a use case of relaxation that totally doesn't match with what we saw customers say they use the product for. And then we're getting more into, again, kind of just the one flavor itself. So initial thoughts are, I would test an entirely different set of I keep saying use case. I would test an entirely different set of environmental shots. Discover the taste. Clearly, they're trying to drive people directly to this new flavor, which isn't a terrible idea. But if I were coming to this page to decide whether to buy 5 Hour Energy, I would more likely default to, well, show me all the flavors. Like there's no reason that I would be attracted to this one in particular. I want to see what all of my options are. So maybe explore our flavor line or explore all flavors would be a call to action that makes more sense. Those are just gut thoughts. That's not even a phrase. Gut reactions, first thoughts. But yeah, how would you build on that, Gia?
I think, first of all, those reviews are fantastic. And I think we all agree the voice of customer in there is incredible. One thing that is striking me, though, is like this is a bit maybe the difference between a B2C product and a B2B product in that their homepage, especially for a brand that is as established as this one, I don't think it's targeted at the end customer. I think that this website is targeted at resellers.
Good point.
And so that's probably why, and again, if we were looking at a product page, that's a completely different story, but because this is their homepage, I highly doubt, and you actually made this comment, Claire, that like probably most people are looking at this on their mobile. Mm-hmm. Chances are, they're looking at an individual product page or they're on a reseller website looking at a product page versus this homepage. I wager, and I would love to know how do their audiences break down, right? This CMO, are they thinking about, they're thinking about end, consumers. I was going to say end users. There's my SaaS background, but the consumers. But then there are other audiences, right, that are probably resellers, and I don't know much about physical product distribution and marketing, mind you. But I imagine this page is targeted at resellers who are already aware and in the know about their core product, which is, I think, what those reviews were speaking to. And now this page is now targeted at those resellers that are, hopefully expanding, their sort of relationship with 5 Hour Energy and potentially want to expand into different products. And so the whole like relaxation thing going on here, that is a departure from their core product. I'm guessing because their core product is well understood already, but that's just my sort of thought arriving here. And I recognize that that's a homepage strategy discussion, less so like a product positioning and messaging discussion.
Yeah. What do the two of you think? I have additional follow-up thoughts, but I've been doing a lot of the talking.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things. I think one interesting aspect is the health concern that users have mentioned, right? Considering that, my assumption here is that there's much more amount of caffeine than a lot of alternative solutions to 5 Hour Energy, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of anxiety around that across different users. So my first thought is like, okay, what should we do in order to lower those anxieties? Because for sure there's going to be like a lot of people with health concerns, like even like, heart problems, for example. But also a lot of other people who don't have specific heart issues or concerns, but we need to lower those objections somehow, right? By saying maybe like you don't need to have the shot entirely all the time, right? Like especially that user that said, oh, I split it in like 3 parts, like I drink a little bit of in the morning, afternoon, at night. That's one thought. The other thought I have is like, I thought it was very interesting what you said, Gia, around the reselling aspect of it. I see this product at 7-Eleven all the time whenever I'm in the US and I drive from one place to another when I stop at 7-Eleven, which ties in with the use case you highlighted, Claire, around it helps me drive on my commute to work. Can't remember what drive
a week.
Yep. And I thought it was interesting. My point around the reseller is, well, like a reseller should have a completely different funnel from the homepage, because obviously like the benefits of the reseller and why resellers should carry 5-hour energy should be completely different than the benefits of the end user.
Yep.
Yeah. Completely
sure.
agree.
But a homepage is, I mean, a homepage has multiple jobs, right? It's not a product page. So
I do think what's interesting though is, while you make a really good point, Gia, that maybe this is geared toward resellers, someone, an Amazon seller or, a wholesale purchaser from 7-Eleven. Maybe they're trying to strike a balance between, consumers, and end users, and those wholesale purchasers, because the calls to action, the shop, the build your own, the subscribe to save, seem very consumer focused, which is interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
My thesis is that this is more an internal thing. So I think what happens is that the team has worked really hard, working for the last 6 months to kind of launch this new flavor, and they've negotiated internally saying that, listen, we need a big launch, and they've taken over the homepage.
You are so right.
I think the mistake, and I understand where they're coming from. I think the mistake that they're making is that they need to still create some escape paths for people that are new to so I'm totally fine with taking over the homepage. You want to like really kind of emphasize this new flavor. I totally get it. And I understand how a junior member in their team would find it impossible to go back to the CMO and say, I think this is a stupid idea. And so therefore they don't say anything and this happens. What I would have done is I would have gone back and said, can we place a few call to actions across the homepage that are simply asking a question like, are you new to 5-hour energy? Because clearly the CMO has to agree that if someone clicks on that button, then this flavor is irrelevant to them. So you can build an argument using that mechanism. And then you've created this, it's not the most obvious path, but if you mention it a couple of times, then people who are somewhat motivated, but not interested in Hawaiian Breeze will still know what to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. Go ahead, Gia, I'm sorry.
I think they'd be really well served by, exactly like you said, Rishi, identifying who's on the website. One thing you could split traffic in that way by giving them the option, like, are you new to 5-hour energy, or, some other way to identify as somebody who might be interested in what the product is, what the company is working on, what new products they might be launching, or maybe I don't want to say more or less effective, because I don't actually know, because I'm just sort of toying with this idea right now, but identifying who the majority of their traffic is today. So are the majority, consumers of the product learning about it for the first time? Are the majority resellers? Are the majority, who knows, press? I mean, who knows, right? Who the majority of the traffic would be here, but finding that out, right, by just running a quick survey would give the marketing team the answer to that question. I still completely agree that you need the escape routes anyway, but I guess how you prioritize or what sort of hierarchy you use to introduce those might be influenced by literal, understanding of how the traffic sort of breaks down to the website. My guess is that consumers are not coming to 5hourenergy.com, but that's just my guess, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I think, it's pink, it's not red. This is like clearly a big departure from their core branding. They're on a mission to really sell this product. They're on a mission to sort of, expand and sort of build the understanding of what 5-Hour Energy is here. They're not selling their core product. So that's probably the first thing I would do, is get some stats on who all is coming to this website and have them sort of self-identify in a way that allows the team to build a strategy for this homepage.
There's a survey that we use with companies we work with all the time that aims to do that. And it starts with a question, which of these best describes you?
Yeah.
And it's less about, as you're describing, Gia, the difference between a reseller versus a consumer, but you could totally adapt it for that purpose. So it could say, I'm here to purchase 5-Hour Energy for myself. I'm here to purchase 5-Hour Energy, wholesale. You could come up with
about it for the first time. I want to learn more about it, right? Because health, there might be people coming purely for the health info.
And then of course, another like click to type element, so that somebody who has their own reason for being on this site can volunteer that, and the team may find out there's a whole separate use case that we're not even aware of. But Rishi, I really love your tying in of like the team dynamics and the internal politics that go into what a brand puts on its website, because that's so real and often overlooked in teardowns like this. So props.
I want to just add one more point here, because this is something that I'm actually thinking about, and I think it's a strong point. I think this is you guys are absolutely correct that 90% of people probably, and we actually, Lorenzo and I just spoke to a brand recently that had the exact same kind of setup, but 90%, maybe 95% of people are actually buying these at physical retail stores. And so the business is actually making the wrong conclusion. So they're saying our website is driving 5% of revenue. Therefore, the website is just a brand asset. And I actually totally disagree with this point, because here's what I think is happening. For me, I've seen 5-Hour, there's this, you need monumental internal, forces to move from non-consumption to consumption. I've seen 5-Hour Energy in 10,000 gas stations. I've never bought it, right? So that doesn't mean I'm a non-consumer. It just means that my behavior hasn't manifested itself yet. But if I was seriously, if I've tried coffee, I've tried Red Bull, it takes a lot of energy to kind of go to a store and say, I'm going to try 5-Hour Energy. I have a lot of anxiety around it. So I would actually search for it and I would come to their website. I would still not buy from the website though. And this is my point. So they're drawing the wrong conclusion, because they're saying, oh, well, Rishi didn't buy from the website, therefore the website. No, the website absolutely made me go to the retail store. So what they need to do is they need to create mechanisms on the website that are focused on, did we, some kind of proxy mechanism, because you can't use add to cart, to figure out if we gave Rishi, a new consumer who's never used the product, the information he would require to probably go to a retail store and buy it. And they should consider that to be their conversion event. And I think if they look at it from that perspective, they will actually find the website is driving a lot more conversions than they're attributing right now.
That's such a good observation. And it could even be in terms of what a proxy conversion rate might be. Maybe they have a page on here that's why Red Bull versus X, and then that's where you address health concerns, jitteriness, small amount that you can keep the rest in your bag later. All these different reasons that people say they choose Red Bull versus 5-Hour Energy versus Red Bull or coffee or whatever it may be. Like an informational. Not an FAQs page, but an informational page that actually helps me understand why would I take that leap at the 7-Eleven and actually purchase this.
That's exactly right. And they can, they can easily identify these content markers. Like you said, it's the comparison page. It could be the information page. It could be time on site. I mean, if someone spends 7 minutes, why are they on the website 7 minutes exploring multiple pages? It could be the store locator. It could be like browsing multiple flavors. These are all behaviors of someone who's like never used the product and is, let me flirt around with this brand, right? And that could be exactly.
Yeah, love it.
So I want to actually add something on the top of this retail versus online kind of like battle.
Mhm.
So we can make the assumption that most of the people come across 5-hour energy from offline rather than online, right?
Mhm.
So this is the classic kind of like P&G and Unilever strategy where they don't actually have the name, the last name, and the credit cards of their
Right.
customers because it's the third party retail that does it, right? So I think there's an opportunity here to start collecting those email addresses and the credit cards by stacking more value on the top of the normal kind of like flavor, for example. So then when
Mhm.
the user is on the site and is like, oh, should I buy offline or should I buy on the site?
Right.
We give them like more compelling reasons. And like companies like Nespresso or Dyson do that with like registering your product to get X, Y, and Z benefit. I'm not
Mhm.
suggesting that they should be registering 5-hour energy, obviously. But if I were these guys, obviously, it would really depend on the type of contract that, for example, they have with like 7-Eleven, all the other third-party retailers. But if I were them, I would want to, capture that data because obviously, like this is customers that they don't have the information of because somebody else has that, right? So adding more value on the top to move people to choose to buy it online rather than offline could be something
Mhm.
interesting.
And I think for me, like, I mean, if I was their CEO, I would spend 85% of my marketing effort on moving people from never having tried 5-hour energy to trying it for the first time. That is the name of the game. And I don't see this homepage emphasizing that enough at all, actually. And to me, that's the big opportunity, because I would say that for every customer that they have that's driving revenue that's used 5-hour energy, there are 20 other customers that are aware of the brand but have not got enough motivation to try it for the first time.
Everybody
And
here.
yep.
I'm not sure if I agree about the trying to capture email address or even credit card on the 5hourenergy.com website. I'm not, part of me would be thinking about exactly what was just mentioned. Of those people who do drink it, how could we motivate them to tell their friends or somebody that they know about it? But probably one of the best vehicles to do that is via the physical product itself. So some sort of incentive on the physical product, for a discount or a free case or I don't know what, versus a strategy on the website to capture email addresses to email nurture them to purchase I don't even know how much this thing costs, right? Probably a nominal amount, but or even a case is probably not very much. I mean, obviously that's all worth experimenting with, but I'm not sure that I would try to use the website as a vehicle to capture credit cards, especially when it could potentially conflict with their retailer or reseller relationships. You both see that probably happen way more than we do, but I wonder if there is a bit of a conflict there when resellers of I'm trying to think of one like Dyson or something. Actually, can you buy Dysons in a store? I don't know. I went right to the website to buy mine, so I'm not actually sure. But is there ever like a conflict if you're competing with your retailers and your resellers? That's what I would be thinking about.
I mean, it does. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
Go.
I'll be very quick. It does appear that they are trying to find that balance. They're promoting this as an online only flavor, right? So you can't find this in a store. They're describing they have a subscribe to save call to action. So it looks like they're making some attempts to build. I mean, they're probably looking for how do we get people on a recurring revenue model versus one-off purchasers at 7-Eleven. But Lorenzo, please continue with what you were going to say.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I didn't explain myself correctly, because what I meant is for the people that are not sure are on the site and they're not sure between should I buy online or should I buy offline, right? Given a compelling reason to pick online versus offline, by increasing the value of the product online. And when I
Mhm.
talk about increasing value of the product, it could be anything. It could be like, free gift, or it could be like, for the use case of people that use it for work. I'm just like making this up completely, like
Right.
free productivity tips, like adding value on the top of the current price. So then when the user has to compare the product offline versus the product online, even from the pricing standpoint, she or he are more towards the online because it's getting more benefit rather than offline. And
Right.
obviously from a company standpoint, I can make more margins selling it directly
Mhm.
than third-party retailer. Obviously, I would be wanting to double check the contracts that I have with 7-Eleven and all the other partners
Right.
to make sure that there's no any issue.
Violations there.
I
So,
hate
Yeah.
I hate to jump in again with another idea, but I want to just add something that, one of my favorite copywriting books of all time is actually the one that's above me it's called Adweek Copywriting Handbook anyway. And one of the ideas that they talk about in that book, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful idea, is when you're doing marketing, be aware of the nature of your product. Every product has a nature. And I feel that 5-hour energy has a very specific nature. Use case might be a technical term, but it also has a nature in itself. I'm totally making this up, but as I imagine 5-hour energy, I almost look at it as being an assistant in my life, where
Mhm.
I had this moment in this brief period of my life where I need more energy, and I don't have the reserve for it, and I can kind of reach for my sidekick,
Mhm.
put it in my mouth, and I, very quickly get a boost of energy. And that's the role that 5-hour energy plays in my life. That's the energy of the product. That's the nature of the product. To me, actually, I understand from the brand. I think understanding the nature of the product and understanding what and the brand's objectives don't always match up. So like the
Mhm.
brand, to me, the idea of subscription for 5-hour energy seems absurd, because my energy levels are completely unpredictable, right? I don't want to necessarily have like a case of 5-hour energy at home. I'm not saying that there is no use case for this, but I'm saying that when I really think about the purest version of the nature of the product, I'm actually looking at something where randomly, unexpectedly, I'm going to have these periods of low energy, and I want to be able to conveniently access the product that can. So to me, the gas station use case is actually quite relevant, because I am at a gas station on a regular basis. I don't necessarily need to keep a reserve of these things at home. So anyway, I just wanted to add this unrelated point, but I was thinking about that as we were talking about this.
It doesn't sound like the reviews, though, go with that, right? It sounds like the reviews are shift work, that it is sort of a part of a routine, which is a bit scary. I mean, I say scary. I don't know anything about the health benefits, but this 5-hour energy makes me nervous, because I'm like, there's got to be something bad about it, right? Like it sounds too good to be true. So I imagine, a subscription model would probably be not super well received for obvious reasons, but it does sound like there is this regular sort of cadence or frequency of usage here that is part of the nature of the product, albeit probably not something you want to lean too hard into. One of the things that struck me about this website, by the way, was all the like warning copy, like the small print at the bottom of the page, right? On that point. I don't know if you all noticed that. Like, look at all of that.
Yeah.
And that's based at the consumer. That's not talking to a reseller. That's not talking to somebody who is, I've been a long time customer. This is for new first time people who don't know this product. So there's a lot going on. They're trying to do a lot with this website right now. And it feels like the homepage, sorry. It feels like the homepage is being pulled in like 6 different directions. Anyway, as to the direction it should be pulled in, probably some tests are definitely some research followed by some tests.
My takeaway, and I'll add just this one last thing because we need to get to a SaaS product as well, is Rishi, your observation about it being like a, every once in a while kind of assistant, I think is very valid. And 5-hour energy surely already knows this, but clearly they have multiple different types of customers. They have the daily drinker, and then they have I'm on a road trip, it's 2 a.m, I have 4 more hours to go, I'm going to stop at a 7-Eleven and drink this thing one time, that need to be accounted for. And right now, this homepage is not doing a great job of that. It is being pulled in 6 different directions, but ultimately, yes, there needs to be a funnel, so to speak. There needs to be a customer experience for each of those different types of, what was the word you just used? It was a really good one. It wasn't use case, it was something else.
Jobs.
Job, right. There
Sure.
should be a dedicated customer experience for each of those different jobs somebody hires this product for. But should we go to SaaS?
I actually want to say one last thing, just one kind of like, if I, were to work at 5-Hour Energy, one clear understanding is that a lot of people replace coffee with the 5-Hour Energy. And to me, the question I would want to ask to those people is, why not having multiple coffee, 1 or 2 coffee right after the other one, versus having 5-Hour Energy, right? Like, what is the difference between having more coffee and a stronger coffee versus 5-Hour Energy? I don't know the answer to that, but it's definitely something like I would almost want to put the customer behind, like against the wall, figuratively, and try to understand why they didn't choose to have 2 coffees or 3 coffees, one after the other one, and they went with 5-Hour Energy instead.
Yeah, it's learning from the customer themselves would be the ideal for sure. I could hypothesize, I could come up with guesses. The road trip use case, that's probably the only situation in which I could see myself purchasing a 5-Hour Energy, because gas station coffee, like that's been sitting on the burner all day, is pretty terrible. But yeah, going back to actual customers would be better than my guesses, right? As someone who hasn't purchased. But let's jump into SaaS.
Yeah.
Rishi, you want to go first?
Sure. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. We're going to talk about Clickup, and I've opened up the homepage of Clickup. I'm looking at the desktop version. Obviously, I recognize that many people will be looking at the mobile version, but just because it fills the screen nicer, we're going to use this. And actually, I really don't love this homepage for a bunch of reasons. Like, this image is not very clear to me. I can't really understand what they're talking about. I wish it was interactive, and I wish I could have kind of played around with it. Those things are much more immersive. They talked about some social proof over here. Then there's some animated GIFs over here. They have these like situational, animated GIFs, which I don't think most people would even recognize. Because when I refresh the homepage, it's oddly enough, okay, it does highlight. Okay, so again, I don't know how many people would notice this. So I am concerned about consumption. But anyway, let's just continue with this. They have these animated elements are kind of useful, but it's completely out of context. The world's most fun docs. I'm not actually thinking about a fun way of this didn't really appeal to me. I'm looking at a project management tool or something that can roll up all of my project management tools. So, and these are a little hard to follow. I would have actually had maybe some copy at the side that kind of reinforced what this is actually doing and what the person is trying to achieve. Anyway, so they've got a ton of content over here. And interestingly enough, and this is, they've got a testimonial over here, and they've got 24/7. I want to talk about, if it's okay with you guys, I want to kind of talk about like the first thing that I do whenever I'm studying a page or studying a business. I actually try to identify what are the centers of gravity for that business, or what are the tips of the spear for that business. Because the mistake that we make is, look, the CEO comes in and says, every feature about our product is amazing. You need to talk about all of it. The marketing team say, well, yes, boss, we'll do whatever you want us to do. And they'll talk about all 20 features. Whereas the product team knows that there are 4 features that get 90% of use. And to me, I think those are the features we should talk about. But clearly, looking at this homepage, it's almost like a weightage was given, or a real estate space, a pixel height was given to each section. And they were like designed around these constraints. And as a result, they've talked about a bunch of things. So I'll explain to you like how, so what's interesting about my approach, and I don't think you guys know this, Lorenzo and I are very similar, but we're actually diametrically opposite as well. He completely believes in research and I don't do any research at all. So my whole approach to marketing is, just pull ideas out of my head and just test completely ridiculous ideas. So I could be 100% wrong over here, but I'll explain to you what I've decided to focus in on. So what I did was, I first of all recognized that we're talking about far too much on this homepage, and not all of it is equally important. That was self-evident to me. I don't really know what's important, so I kind of searched my soul, and I said, if someone is using a project management tool and is moving over to ClickUp, that's the use case I actually was focused in on. I understand that there are some people that are moving to ClickUp that have never used a project management tool, but I had to kind of start somewhere. And so I picked the group of people that already have a project management tool and are considering or flirting with the idea of moving over to ClickUp. So, and I asked myself, what would be the things that would resonate with these people? And three ideas emerged. The first idea is that they already have a specific tool. Now, if I, for example, in our case, we use Monday. If I'm on the ClickUp website and I'm looking to switch from Monday, I'm looking to fire Monday and hire ClickUp, which means I want a sales pitch that only talks about that scenario. I don't give a damn about anything else because Monday is where I'm at and ClickUp is where I want to get at. Now, the thing is that these guys actually do have this content. So they have, versus Monday versus Asana versus Jira. So what I did, I didn't do any mockups, but I basically just added this conceptually, imagine with me, I added like a call to action right on the top of the page that says, what main tool do you currently use to manage your work? Now, the reason I'm saying main tool is because people might use multiple tools and I don't want to put them in a situation to say, pick one. I just want to get the main tool. And then there's a drop-down option over here. And then in the drop-down option, we give a bunch of popular options like Monday, whatever. And when they make that selection, I'm now recontextualizing and repersonalizing all of the content on my homepage to kind of talk in the context of how does this software, how does ClickUp work in contrast or in comparison to Monday. So that was my first ClickUp. That was my first idea. The second idea that I had was that, human beings, project management, I've thought a lot about this because we use a project management tool. And I remember the process I went through in deciding on a specific project management tool. And it's actually a very complicated thing because I had to actually imagine our workflow and how we actually work and communicate. And it's not possible for a project management tool, even if it were to say, are you a marketer? Not all marketing firms have the same workflow. So that doesn't help me either. And I was thinking about like how I went through the process, and the way I went through it was actually hearing stories. I actually reached out to 10, 15 people and I asked them, in my network, and I said, what project management tool do you use? And can you talk to me about why you like it? And I actually heard a verbal, I actually went on a call with them and they would actually verbally tell me, here is how we use it. And I was while they were talking, I was trying to draw a picture in my mind for how this could conceptually work in my world. And we know that video content is like so much more persuasive than written content. I was just kind of looking up a statistic for Loom. Loom has kind of added 14 million users in just the last few years. And that's, these people were switching from email communication to kind of making quick videos. So there is evidence that, let me just make this a little bigger. There is evidence that, it's self-evident that video content is very persuasive. Now, what I found on the ClickUp website was that they have a testimonial over here. They only actually showed two, by the way, just two. And there's a video call to action over here. When you click on it, they actually take you to a page where they do have a video here. And then they've got a written explanation for how this specific company kind of solved the problem. I actually find it very difficult to read someone else's use case and imagine it, but I did find this video to be very, very persuasive. And then I found a problem where the second person, there's a video here as well. When you click on it, there's actually no video in this case study. So there's only one video. So again, I'm really thinking about content consumption. So I'm speculating, I'm postulating that a user would be more persuaded by a video version of a company that's used ClickUp and the relief it's brought to them versus a written version because it helps them visualize better. So I would then look to see what percentage of people actually discovered that video on this homepage. If the answer is 2%, then the video is not visible as far as I'm concerned. I would actually make it more visible. So my second idea was to kind of create more. So here's what I would do. I would then look to see what is the conversion impact of that video. And if I can, the first video, if I can prove to my CMO that it actually converts better, I can make a case for, because by the way, I went to the YouTube channel, they actually have no more videos. They have literally no videos of customers talking about, switching to ClickUp, which to me is a lost opportunity. And the reason why they probably don't have it is because the CMO decided that it's not worth the investment. I would actually pull up analytics data and I would prove to them that the few people that watched the video actually had a much higher conversion rate. And I would use that as a basis to say, we should create more video content for, because that's a consumption pattern people like. And then my third idea was, when you move from a project management tool to another project management tool, it is such an anxiety-riddled kind of transition because you have so many questions. And one of the things that I discovered when we moved to Monday was, and I really, really love this, is because when I made the shift, I hadn't really fully thought it through. But once I made the shift, I had tons of questions. And instead of trying to understand how their reports were structured, what I did was I would email their customer service and I would make a video and I would say, here is how my business is structured. How can you please configure my interface so it works with my business setup? And I imagine that to be very compelling to a lot of customers because nobody in the world wants to change their business structure to match project management tools. They want the project management tool to be configured across their business structure. And so I thought to myself that if Monday.com customer service is doing this for me, I'm pretty sure that these guys also, their customer service people also help customers solve these same things. And to me, that's like such a strong selling proposition. So what I did was I just took this tile and I just changed the copy. So over here, they say, ClickUp has the highest rated client support in software. We're here 24/7, every day, the week, including holidays. Great. But that's not my problem. So what I did was I updated the copy to say, you tell us what your current business process is, and our team will show you how to tweak ClickUp to match your existing process. Because I want the buyer to know basically that their process don't have to change at all. So essentially, as a recap of what I've done over here is I identified 3 core ideas that I want to focus on my homepage. The first one is understanding where people are coming from and repersonalizing and contextualizing the sales pitch to match the tool. Because I'm pretty sure 80% of people that move to ClickUp come from some other project management tool. So I need to make a case against that project management tool. And the second one is, video content. We are an imagining species. Video content is effective. And then the third thing I would emphasize. So those are just the 3 things that I would emphasize. The third one being the customer support, basically saying that we'll remove the friction from the migration. So those are my 3 ideas. Lorenzo, your turn.
All right. So let's talk about my 2 main ideas. Can you guys see my screen fine? Is it big enough? Okay, fantastic.
Yep.
So the way I think about any page, homepage, product pages, any page is like a funnel, right? So we have the normal funnel from the homepage to the thank you page, but also the way a page is structured is like a funnel. Like 100% of the people see the above the fold section, and then the more you scroll down, the less people see the page. So I wanted to focus my 2 ideas on the top of the page above the fold and right up kind of like below that, because more people will see those 2 parts. So let's talk about the first one, which is the above the fold section should have more value. And here's what I mean by that. If we look at the headline and the subheadline, they both describe what the app is, but they don't describe what's in it for the customer, right? So one app to replace them all. So what? What's the need for me as a customer that the app
replaces a bunch of other apps that I currently have. The next point I have is similar to what you, Rishi, were saying earlier. The hero image is not very clear. Like I see the screenshot and so on, but I don't understand what it is and what are the screenshots from. So it's quite unclear. And then the last bit I have, which is like a small one, but it does matter, which is like the whole get started copy, and the sign up could be 10x more valuable by saying that they can actually try the product for free, right? So there's few things that I came up with as a solution. So the first one is, and I'm suggesting here some copy, but I'm not suggesting like, they should go with it. This is like just some thoughts that I have based on like few Capterra reviews that I read and went through. So they should have some benefits just below the sub headlines that speak about the end result that the user get, because now finally there's one app that groups them all, which is like, now you can save money by replacing different apps with one, which is something that people have mentioned. Now, all of a sudden, instead of paying for 5 apps, one project management app, one chat app, one whatever the other apps are, now we only have to pay for one. Keep your tool subscription costs down, which is like, obviously, like every single company wants to save on subscription costs, right? They always end up with like crazy amount of like thousands and thousands of dollars of monthly subscription costs. Of course, you want that. And then the last bit I have is like me more productive by having all data in one place rather than 4 or 5 different apps. So one thing that I saw from customer reviews was that having data on a lot of different apps, so like chat and project management, would make the team less productive because people have to like switch from one app to the other one. So I wanted to like focus on those 3 benefits that people have mentioned. The other point I have here is, instead of like, it's very difficult to connect the dots between the headline, the subheadline, and the hero image, right? I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to explain that with the screenshot that this is like a one app to replace them all, right? But that hero image does not support, is not clear enough in terms of supporting the headline and the subheadline. So what I would do instead is I would take a screenshot of each one of these 4, main apps, tasks, docs, chat, goals, and have it clear that says 1 plus the second screenshot plus the third one plus the fourth one, to clearly explain that these screenshots are meant to be about the tasks, the docs, the chat, and the goals. And then finally, the last point I have is simply replace the copy of the 2 main call to actions, which is like get started and sign up, with try for free, which is like more compelling because now we're telling them that it's free to try, rather than like sign up and get started to do what.
Right.
That's my first one.
So many thoughts, so many.
No, there's a lot. There's so much here. But keep going.
All right, let's so then I'll talk about the second one, because this is like a bold idea, and I would love to get your feedback on the second one. So one thing that I noticed, so if we scroll down here in this section, so something that piqued my interest and my attention in this section, where they describe the 4 kind of like main type of apps that Clickup replaces other apps with. This is the section that caught my attention. It says replaces Asana, Monday, and Jira for the project management bit. And then for the chat, it talks about Slack and Microsoft Teams and so on, right? And I thought, okay, one thing is telling me what apps it replaces, but then the user has to think, so what? Like, okay, fantastic. Like, it replaces it, but I think there is an opportunity to make the user connect the dot about the saving aspect of it, right? So here's a thought here's an idea I actually wireframed, and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So what I'm suggesting here for each one of these tabs, so project, tasks, chat, goals, and views, I'm suggesting, can you guys see it fine? Like, can you see the copy that I added?
Yep.
So I'm suggesting to add a copy that says estimated annual savings per user when replacing multiple apps with ClickUps. And I put, like, I completely made it up, between 3,500 and 4,500. Because it's great to tell them that that feature replaces other apps that you have. What's more powerful is telling them how much they're gonna save, because now they have one app, doing a bunch of other stuff. And then what I added was another call to action that says, or calculate my real potential annual savings. And when user click on this, they go to what I call a wizard, which is basically kind of like a wizard, a quiz, let's say a wizard, where the user is being asked 3 questions. What project, task, chat, goals, views, software do you use? How many people use the software? What plan are you in? Or how much are you paying a month, right? And then the result of that quiz would be, here's how much you're going to save when switching from all these X apps to ClickUp. It's kind of like an ROI calculator approach. And I actually got inspired by this idea straight from Peloton, which has an ROI calculator where the user can pretty much like go in this section where they compare Peloton with the other fitness costs that the person might have. And when they get started, they ask a bunch of questions around, like, what kind of a fitness activities do you do? How much are you spending? And then finally, in the kind of like thank you page of that quiz, it tells you how much they're going to save when switching from whatever alternative solutions they got to Peloton.
Gia, you're like about to explode, so you go first.
I love it.
I first and foremost would be very curious to know, of the reviews that you read, do those customers represent ClickUp's ideal customers? And this may be like a B2B versus B2C sort of like reality moment here, where I suspect, by the way, in SaaS, we love to pick on project management software. It's just like, it is the quintessential, probably hardest thing to sell for all the reasons you both highlighted 100%. It's a really difficult, the switching cost is very high. There's tons of competition. It's like wildly, fraught with options. However, I don't suspect that cost is a determining factor for the primary champion person who's seeking to solve this problem. Is it impactful for the stakeholder that may, hand over the credit card or sign the check, so to speak? Definitely. But for that person who's likely responsible for project management, not at an individual level, obviously, because we're talking about a business owner, then Lorenzo, what you're saying is dead on. More likely, though, ClickUp is targeting teams of a certain size and above. Generally, what our experience has been, especially in all B2B purchases and software, there's an individual who is impacted by the pain of, I'm going to guess because of how ClickUp's website is set up, the pain of managing all of these tools, right? That's where their pain is, and they've been tasked with, or they're taking upon themselves solving this problem. They're not the economic buyer necessarily. They might be, but their bigger pain is actually associated with the multiple of tools versus the budget line items that they consume. So I would disagree. Not that it's not worth testing, 100%. I mean, everything is worth testing, but I wouldn't wager that the ideal ClickUp customer says that cost is the reason for switching from one project management software or multiple. Clearly, their goal is multiple to something like ClickUp. Likely, like if I had to take a guess from their website, and by the way, I'm looking off screen at their site, my wager is that what they learned, they probably did some level of research that learned that their best customers were not just firing Monday.com or Asana, they were firing Slack, all the tools that you just listed off, Lorenzo, and that they were able to move away from that suite into ClickUp, which is why they've gone forward with this value prop of one app to replace them all. Not talking about budget. And my wager also, and by the way, I don't know if this is necessarily true. I'd be very interested to learn from their customers, did they say that task management, docs management, goals management, chat, are those the things that they said, was the difference maker for them? Was that what when they tried the product for the first time, is that what convinced them, holy shit, yes, we can finally get rid of all the rest of this stuff? Is that where ClickUp really delighted them and brought them to that first value? Another thing I wanted to mention about video is that video, and I'm completely changing course now, and maybe I should hold on this in case Claire, you wanted to add anything to like the value prop main.
I would like to jump in on the value prop piece, or the value that ClickUp uniquely provides, which I'm even with the value prop of one app to replace them all, I'm still not clear on the strength of that, because there are many project management tools that claim to enable you to replace all your others. But Rishi, what you brought up earlier about the level of anxiety that the target customer probably feels, that like I spot on 100% agree. Like you mentioned, Gia, because the project management space is so saturated, there's so many options. I am the buyer within our small company. Like I am the person looking for a project management solution. I am the person testing them out. I went through this whole journey myself toward the end of last year, seeking to replace a bunch of disjointed tools that our team uses, and explored multiple options that said, oh, you can replace Slack, you can replace Google Docs, you can replace this and that. It's a big promise. It's a really big promise. And there's so many caveats that I agree very much on the level of anxiety expressed, and the whether it's through video or not, which you were about to touch on, Gia, but the making it much more obvious that promise holds true. So what I mean by that is when I see you can replace chat, we are a service provider business. We work with clients. What does that look like for me to invite contractors into some channels in my chat? Is it going to be as easy as Slack? Is it going to be more of a pain in the ass because the people we work with are already on Slack and they're not familiar with ClickUp? Or that sounds great that we could replace Google Docs, but can I create deliverables in ClickUp and then export those deliverables and give them to my client? Or do I still have to keep Google Docs because my client is going to want a Google Doc? There's so much nuance in project management, and this promise is so bold that I agree with the support emphasis you described, Rishi, the making it more obvious how their business processes won't have to change. And in terms of video, whether it's video or some other way, what I would love to see is more proof for the person feeling the pain of how have other companies like mine switched over? What does their setup look like? What did they do to replace Docs? What did they do to replace A and B and C? But go back to what you were going to say, Gia.
Well, actually, because Rishi, I loved your comment when you were saying, when you're reading a case study, you actually have a hard time sort of putting yourself in their shoes, because every company is, run so differently. And I think it's a really good point. And that's part of why I don't think leading with a case study is the right way to go. I actually think ClickUp does a good job of illustrating just just getting me to the next step. I think they do a good job on in their hero section and then the section right below it, because again, my wager is that task management, chat management, goals, and maybe I can't remember what the other one was. This docs is mentioned. They actually, right after that very huge promise, by the way, I think they could do a way better job of that visual. I don't think I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't think they did a great job there. Their headline could also be a lot better. They could be, agitating at the pain. There's a lot of things they could be doing with that headline that they aren't necessarily. But just my point is that the section right below it, I think they do a good job of getting me to that next, like, okay, show me. So you've made this big promise. Show me what this thing actually looks like. And they do. I'm not a big, not tiles, what is it called? Like the tabs, because I agree that content like that tends to get buried or missed very easily. But that aside, like the interaction aside, the content itself does actually show what task management looks like. It does actually show me what chat might look like and feel like, just so I get to that next little hurdle of skepticism. I get past that. Then maybe after that, I'll be ready for, testimonials or case studies. And actually, I'm not yet. I would still want to see, more, show me what this thing actually looks like. Because I remember well as well, Claire, when you're evaluating project management, you don't even want to give them your email address without some, like, even if the product could be free, you still don't want to even take the step to give them your email address, start to get all the onslaught of inevitable onboarding emails that are going to follow that. If the product itself, if the website itself can't show me that that's going to be worth my time. So the website's got to do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of show me, what your promises are, actually show me what that looks like. And I think they do a good job of showing the product a lot on the homepage, because I think they know that they have to. The other thing that I was going to mention, there was one thing about, there was two things actually, Rishi, that you mentioned, one about video and the other one, which was about high touch onboarding, product onboarding. So maybe I'll go to the high touch onboarding first, because it's probably the one that strikes me the most. So Clickup has a freemium offering, and I would worry for their unit economics if they offered a one-on-one onboarding in the way that you're suggesting. By the way, I think it would be super effective.
I wasn't suggesting that. I was just saying that, like, with Monday, now that I have the paid plan, when I have questions, I just make a video and I say, here is business here's a business workflow. How can I configure Monday to make it work? And they give me really good answers. And I really, as a business owner, I really appreciate that, because I don't want to change my business flow to fit Monday.
Yep, 100%.
And I have not looked at ClickUp's pricing page, but I would not be surprised if they do have some kind of white glove onboarding for the higher pricing tiers, which, perfect. Which is a huge value add when the plan that the customer is on is the right one. But back to what you were saying, and I realize we should.
Yes, I think absolutely do need to wrap up. The only other thing was about video. I've actually seen video tank conversion rates on websites. I'm sure you've all experienced the same thing. So I just wanted to sort of bring in that caution that yes, video can outperform text in some cases, but I have seen the reverse. I've seen tens of thousands of dollars be spent on video, really well polished videos, and it actually does more harm than good. So that was the only thing that I wanted to mention about videos.
Yeah, valid point.
Is test it first.
Well, iterate, right? Like crawl, walk, run,
then walk, then run.
Version, and then definitely add the polish once you've sort of validated that it's going to improve and lift your conversion rates overall.
Agreed.
Yeah. This was so much fun.
That was cool. That was really cool to see the differences there. Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun seeing both of your approaches, and doing so in each other's kind of niche, so to speak. So this was awesome.
Yeah, I love having you guys here. Seriously, like I've been a fan of like the value that you deliver at Forget the Funnel. So that's why I wanted you here. That's pretty much it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I super appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
guys.
Mhm.
We'll be in touch. Take care. Bye.